First order of business is the consent agenda. Recommended action is below or included in the consent agenda. 4A, meeting minutes from August 14th. The appointment of additional mentors/sponsors for 2018-19. 6A, board goals and objectives. 6B, sports merger approvals. And 6C, special education. Anybody want any of those deleted from the consent agenda?
No.
Okay, may I have a motion?
Yes. Second.
Thank you, thank you. You got those? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next on the agenda is for the good of the cause. Board of Education encourages public participation on school-related matters at board meetings. To allow for public participation, a period not to exceed 30 minutes has been set aside at the beginning of the board meetings. As a general rule, public participation will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Anyone who would like to speak should state their name and sign the sheet. If anybody who would like to address the board?
Yeah. So I'm Martha Bullock. I have two kids here, Lydia and Brendan. Lydia's a rising 4th grader, Brendan's a rising 9th grader. And I want to thank you guys for your consideration of our sports programs and for the fact that you're talking about them and talking about mergers and thinking about keeping our kids active and involved and working with kids from throughout the region. As a parent of a child who's been in situations like that throughout her sports experiences here, we've seen the tremendous value that brings our kids. So thank you for letting me be here to listen to your discussion of that, but for your consideration of that and your promotion of athletics in our school district.
Thank you, Greg. Anyone else?
Yield the rest of my time to Martha. And no, the second what Martha just shared, and we appreciate you all considering the potential merger of the lacrosse program, and here to answer any questions. My name is Garrick Smith. Sorry, I should have led with that. And president of the Tri-Lakes Youth Lacrosse Association here in town. And we're looking to, we've got what we believe is a great feeder program for what could be a great sport moving forward. So just here to answer any questions when we get to that topic. So if there are any.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Report, superintendent report. Dr. Catania.
Well, it seems like we were just here. It's only been a week, so I shared with you all my exciting news last week. But I did have some events come up that I wanted to share with you. First of all, last week I attended a gathering here in Lake Placid of something called the Women's Initiative. And this is a statewide effort by the Council of School Superintendents to encourage more women into leadership positions in public schooling. So it allowed me an opportunity to reflect on leadership in Lake Placid. About 10 years ago, 100% of our administrative staff here in the district were, and I believe always had been, male. And that changed about 10 years ago. Today, when our administrative team meets, we're 50% women, and we're starting to look like a model for others in this state. So members of our team were able to provide a welcome to this conference that was held here. And so I just want to say thanks to our middle school principal, Teresa Lindsay, to our elementary school principal, Sonia Franklin, and to our math teacher, Tammy Casey, who's also working on her administrative degree. And she attended this and also spoke as part of her administrative internship. So it's a good direction for us to be headed statewide, and I think we represent a good direction, and somewhat in the forefront of this movement statewide. Also, last week I attended a meeting of the Educational Opportunity Fund for the Lake Placid Central School District. We've talked about the group many times here. I wanted to let you know that the fund trustees are interested in continuing support for our students. And this includes another round of student-initiated grants. You might remember that from last year, where students themselves can write grant proposals and get them approved. And we had some, I thought, wonderful work done, especially by our elementary school students last year, coming up with great ideas. So they want to replay that again this year. So they'll float that out in September. And they also want to institute something called an individual opportunity grant. And this would be for individuals to help our students who need it pay for things like, we've talked about this, like bridge course tuition. So they're working on implementing that, this fall. And I know we've talked about it's probably the best time to implement it is starting in the spring beforehand. So we'll see if their implementation this fall, how widely that helps. But hopefully by implementing it now, come spring, it will become a part of just normal practice. And that's our students who don't take bridge classes or take the classes and don't opt for the credit will no longer have to make that decision based on money. So again, thanks to the EdOp Fund for their work in that area. Yesterday, another event here, this was right here in the school district, we held our annual orientation for new employees. This is a great day. We invite in all the new staff and we run them through everything from kind of the normal procedures of being employed here to how you access the normal benefits of working here, but also to the people and some of, I think, the overriding ideas, mission, goals of the district. So Board President Rick Preston was able to be there to greet people. I was able to welcome the group to the district. The new staff members were provided with a notebook of materials. They learned from Joe Ballou about technology, from Sarah Allen about special education, from Connie Hamaker about DASA, from Teresa Lindsay and from me about teacher evaluations and tenure. So we're able to present this to new employees up front so they know what to expect. And we think that's the best way to go, rather than the moment they're, in the case of tenure and teacher evaluation, rather than the moment they're being evaluated, learning what the expectations are. We do a nice job, I think, of prepping them for that. We also took this group of people on a bus tour of the school district. And so, we took them from the school, from here at this school, out to the far end of Wilmington and around where some of our students live, both the main streets and the back streets, and through Lake Placid as well, through some of the neighborhoods. And then we did celebrate with lunch at the Lake Placid Golf House. So there's a little celebration involved in this day as well. As I mentioned to this group yesterday, to the group of new employees, we do our best to hire the most qualified candidates. And as I shared with them, we do set the bar high with what we expect from them. But we also support them in whatever ways that they might need to be successful. So anyway, I just want to say thanks to all who made yesterday's event possible. And that includes people like Rick and people like Sarah and Connie and Joe, but also a special shout out to Tammy Casey, who as part of her administrative internship organized this day. So it was a good day, and it was great to see new, excited staff members getting ready to go. So, finally, we're 2 weeks away from the first day back for all staff. That's 2 weeks from today is the first day for teachers and teaching assistants and other support staff, at least 10-month support staff, those who don't work year-round. That's September 4th, Superintendent's Conference Day, first day back for the staff. A reminder that that's also the day for the elementary school student and family orientation events. So we have kindergarten orientation, we have new student tours, 4:30. We have at 5 o'clock, we have the orientation for grades 1 through 5, and then we have a picnic for all kids and families at 6 o'clock. And then, of course, there's the big day, and that's Thursday the 6th. So in the end, that's really the day that we're all getting ready for it. So we'll be working hard over the course of the next 2 weeks to be ready for that day. And that's everything I have. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Roger. Information for the board, I don't see anything under the content. Minutes, those were under the consent agenda. Moving on to personnel matters. First item is interim administrative appointment, high school principal. Recommended action upon recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Ernie Watkowski as the interim high school principal effective September 24th, 2018 through December 20th, 2018 per the attached contract. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Ron. Second?
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. Questions, comments, discussion?
So we're just doing this until December, at which point during this time frame we'll do a search for permanent. Is that the plan?
Well, we'll work up some options about how to go forward from there. And, we'll be talking about those in the upcoming weeks and months. Yeah.
Anything else?
Just that Mr. Watkowski's a very well-known person here. He worked with a lot of our students who are right now in middle school and some in high school. When they were in elementary school, he was also here as interim superintendent for a year. It was a particularly tough time for the school district when he was here, but he's one of those people who has a steady hand on the wheel and seems to steer through in rough waters. So I see his being here these next few months being a real strong stabilizing factor.
Thank you. Motion passes 4 yes, 0 against. Teaching staff non-maternal parental leave request. Upon recommended action, upon recommendation of the superintendent, approve non-maternal parental leave request for Michael Bringley, science teacher for grades 6 and 7, effective on or about November 14, 2018, for 30 consecutive school days in accordance with Article 19E of the Lake Placid Educational Association's contract dated July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2020. I have a motion.
Yes.
Thank you, Colleen. Second.
Yes.
Dan, thank you. Any discussion? If you'd please vote then, please. 4 yes, 0 no's. The motion passes. CSEA staff retirement amendment. Upon recommendation of, recommended action upon recommendation of the superintendent, accept the addended retirement date of Clarence Wright, custodian/cleaner at the middle high school to be effective December 28, 2018. May I have a motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. Second?
Yep.
Martha, thank you.
He will be missed. He's just a wonderful employee.
He will be.
So the date has just been changed, is this?
Right.
Right.
Great.
So we went through this process a few months ago with Mr. Wright, and I think that we expressed just what you're expressing now a number of times. So we'll miss him a whole lot. He just wanted to make sure that the date fit with what worked for him. So we get him for 4 more weeks. That's good.
Okay, next on the agenda is appointment of additional mentors. That's under the consent. Appointment of extracurricular activity coordinators. This was removed at my request. And I had a few questions that I thought would enlighten the newer board members and myself. You have the list of all of the extra duty compensation along with the associated stipends. The stipends, if I'm not mistaken, are negotiated in the contract, the union
Yes,
contract.
they're all in here.
So that's where the stipends come from. One of my questions that I put forth last year and had again this year because of poor memory is that some of the class advisors have 2 individuals, some have 3, some have 4. The stipends that are there, it's been clarified that that's the total stipend and that it's divided up among the advisors. So each advisor does not get, $1,053. So that's split up.
Do you want me to explain at all about why we do it that way?
Sure.
Right, so
Please.
that's typically the way it works with our middle school teams. So the advising that goes on for classes, when students are in high school, it's a job that a teacher has to do by, working with, making sure that they're working with the whole class of kids, and that's a different kind of effort at the middle school. In middle school, they're already organized into teams, and so there's already a group of teachers that works with students. And so what they do is they continue that effort. That's a collaborative effort in order to advise them through things like fundraising and special events and all those kinds of things, dances, so that that it becomes the whole team of teachers. So it makes sense, and I think works out well that all the teachers do that. They just split the stuff down.
Any questions? So since that's been pulled, may I have a motion to approve recommended action of appointing the extra duty positions as noted in the attachment?
So moved.
Thank you, Martha. Second?
Yes.
Thanks, Dan. And we already had our discussion. Unless there's additional discussion. If not, please vote. Motion passes 4-0. Next up is the other action items. Goals and objective approval was in the consent. Sports merger approval was also in the consent, but since we have an audience, I think maybe we ought to bring that back up again.
Could you explain consent, just for anybody who's not sure about what that
Sure.
means?
Because consent agenda is where items will go under consent agenda where they've been read ahead of time. Everybody agrees that they approve the item. They're generally discussed. They are always discussed in the previous meeting. So it's nothing new. A new item will not go on the consent agenda. So the sports merger, we discussed at last meeting, and so it went under the consent agenda. But I'd like to, we won't vote on it, but if further discussion, certainly like to entertain that at this time. I have a question. How many participants are there in the youth program at this point?
This year we had about, let's say between 125, 130. We've got,
Now about girls and boys.
yeah, bear with me. We had I'm looking at 100. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
It certainly sounds like a substantial number.
It is substantial. It is substantial.
40 girls in our youth program.
Okay.
40 throughout surrounding regions. So you're aware that our youth program is not just Lake Placid. It's Saranac Lake,
Oh, I
Lake
see. I'm
Placid,
sorry.
Keene, Tupper. So it runs as Tri-Lakes. Yeah.
And therein lies the support for this merger is the fact that not unlike hockey, they play together. In the old days, it used to be them and us, and now it's us.
Since the very beginning, yeah.
It's quite a few, and we had seen I've been involved with the program probably 6 years, and we'd seen we've got some numbers to back that, but there have been a disproportionately high percentage of Lake Placid players playing right up from the K2 level, right up through the 6th grade. And then once we made that transition to the Scholastic, the modified and varsity, it almost flipped to where it was, let's say we walked in with 65–70% Lake Placid students and the rest from everywhere else. It almost flipped to 90% Saranac Lake students and 10% Lake Placid students. So we got a lot of, it's certainly hurt the organization, or at least hurt the sport, we feel like, with the divide. We think the merger, a true merger, will be a great thing moving forward, and we hope, these kids have been playing together for, some of which for years, 10, 11 years, and we hope they can continue that, and we think the facilities could be great over here, and we think there's a lot of momentum in the outside lacrosse world also that is with a spotlight on this little town. We think it'd be a really neat thing to have a thriving program moving forward. So I don't know. So kind of our thought.
As I said at the last meeting, we built this foundation, and now we need to, continue with what you've done. So. We've got a
little bit of a concern with the modified program, and we've voiced that in the past. It was important, I think, that we get through this varsity merger to create to begin to develop that structure. But we had a large team. Matt and Dave were the coaches of the boys' 5th and 6th grade team. And they had a great season, and there are a lot of kids coming up that, quite frankly, are very strong players that just won't have a scholastic outlet over the course of the next couple of years to play in. We hope that one of these days before long we can bring that in front of the board to try and create look into more, I guess, developing that modified program, even as soon as this spring coming up. And we've got, as president of the Tri-Lakes Youth Lacrosse, we've got some ability to help financially that endeavor to make that, if there's reason to do it, and we were to get enough players and parents involved. So not a decision for tonight, but just something that we have on our that we're thinking about. But
keep us up to date.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Garrett, can I just ask a quick question? What is the breakdown of the program? Is it K2, grade 3, 4, 5, 6, and then bumps to modified?
That's exactly right. K2 through 6. This probably, I think, for the past 4 or 5 years, we've taken on 7th grade girls also to help sort of bridge that gap between the Tri-Lakes and modified, or Tri-Lakes and lacrosse, varsity rather. It's a lot more difficult to do with the boys program. We would, in the absence of any kind of modified program, we would work to try and keep sticks in their hands, create essentially a U15 team, and we don't know who will play yet. There are some programs out in Vermont. There's some programs that I've heard that are down in the Albany area, but it's quite a commitment and a sacrifice for these parents, and these kids they're just extraordinary players, and that could have great futures in the sport. And I picked up a stick when I was not until sophomore year of high school, and had no idea it was a lifelong sport, and still play. Matt and I both play in the adult tournament every year, and so it sort of keeps going. So we'd like to continue to share that and provide that kind of exposure for our kids and others.
Anyone else have any questions? Any questions? Great. Well, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you listening, and thank you for your support. Appreciate it.
And just, Rick, you know what I will say? There are 4 of us here. We didn't come last week, but you have a community of parents who love what you've provided our kids for athletics, and they will engage if we ask them to engage. So if you guys get to a point in any of your discussions about lacrosse or hockey or baseball or any other sport where you need help, find us, find the parents. They care. They like what our kids are doing, and
That's the truth.
yep. And so we'll support you if you need us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, next on the agenda is the special education approval of the, that was on the consent. Does anybody have any questions about next meeting's 9-4 packet? The 821 was quite extensive, so you can review it at your leisure if you haven't already. So any questions on the September 4th packet? Great. If not, we'll enter the adjournment phase. I believe this was one of the shorter meetings that we've had. So, appreciate you coming. Any old agenda topics? New agenda? Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Colleen, second.
Yep.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Go.
The next couple, so.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So I got assigned to District 2 for the primary.
Perfect.
Are you going over?